All right, hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Politics of the Empire, episode 7 / Xcast. What episode are you guys on? 92. Presented by the Empire Media, and we've got a bunch of reverb in my mic that we thought we took care of, and so Adam's going to come take me off the air for a second. So Josh, start talking.
Oh, yeah, but hey, we are here for the Xcast Politics of the Empire crossover preview. It's kind of like if Marvel and DC did a crossover, but they had the exact same characters.
Except the budget for this this is it's one bajillionth of the size of the Avengers.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. It's also day 5,232 in the search for Tim Shovelday, in case anyone was wondering.
What?
Pretty much something I've been saying at the beginning of every podcast for
forever. Okay, I was say I guess I'm not deep enough in the lore, the Xcast lore for that. So, thanks for joining us here tonight. If you're watching live or catching us on the replay and the 17,000 different places you can find our content, thank you for catching us on the recap. So tonight is midterm election night. So our primary focus here, the entire episode, is going to be politics. We're not going to really do a live react show because we're not informed enough to be like, oh man, big upset in the Alabama 7th, or well, not that they have. Do they have 7 electoral votes where they have 7 congressional seats? I don't know.
Alabama. Yeah, I bet they do.
Okay. You get my point. It's A, we're not informed enough, and B, you're gonna be watching, your news network of choice, not listening to us. So, on tonight's program, we've got kind of some stuff related to elections and just voting in general that we want to hear discussed tonight. So we're gonna just get right into it here, guys. So once again, I've got Josh here on my right, Adam here on my left. My name's also Adam, but call me Dorf. For those Xcast people not familiar with me, I think I've been on an episode or 2, but I'm also with these guys doing other, primarily sports shows across the Empire Media Network here. So, thanks for tuning in. If you're usually an Xcast viewer, don't usually appear on that show, but nice to meet y'all.
But tonight you're hosting.
Yeah,
so
I know. Well, the politics one usually comes on first. That's the only reason I stole your show.
This is the politics show, but it's also the Xcast.
I know, it's also, yeah, whatever. All right, so first thing we want to discuss tonight, should, I want to call it famous people, celebs, newspapers, athletes, whatever you want to call it, public figures, stop doing political endorsements. Why I bring that up is, at this point in the political environment and the political nature of today's modern politic, do they often have a more adverse effect for the person they're endorsing than the positive effect they're hoping to have? Because honestly, there's a lot of people out there, especially if you want to get to specifically athletes, that if a athlete who makes, like, for example, LeBron James, I believe, casually, I don't think he came out and said it, but was wearing a Beto O'Rourke hat. Mm-hmm. First off, he doesn't play for your team. If you're a voter in Texas, generally speaking, he doesn't play for Houston, San Antonio, or Dallas.
He doesn't live there, so he
doesn't live there.
Right.
And he's a dude that makes, $30 million in salary on top of his endorsement, bazillions of endorsement money a year. He's now a coastal elite because he lives in Los Angeles. Why do you fucking care what this guy has to say? And more people will be turned off by that and will vote to spite that type of person in the opposite direction of what they hoped for, rather than the direction that they're going for. So, I'm not talking as a let's suppress speech here, but as a practical thing here, should people who want to be influential, whether it be celebrities, like I said, celebrities, public figures, even newspapers, should they get out of the endorsement game because it's doing more harm than good?
For their own benefit, I kind of think they should. I want to give an example of someone even bigger than LeBron James. There's not that many people out there bigger than LeBron James. But here in the state of Michigan, in our gubernatorial race, we had ads from President Barack Obama in support of Gretchen Whitmer, the Democratic candidate. And when I heard those ads, I instantly thought to myself, everyone who would be impressed by the Barack Obama endorsement and ad on the radio.
Doesn't live in this area.
Well, no, they're already voting for Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like he was swaying anyone. In fact, I think all he did was risk the few people who realized that after their 8 years of Barack Obama, their life wasn't any better, which that's just the story of America. That's not even a criticism of Barack Obama. But I feel like that actually hurt people. I could see people being like, oh, yay.
And I'm gonna
more of the same. Obama's.
I disagree. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because when you look at the climate right now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you. Remember when things were like this? That's what they're trying to do with it.
In Detroit, though? In Michigan?
In Michigan, yeah.
What's so great about Michigan and Detroit then?
Well, I mean, when you didn't have a president that was, tweeting at all hours of the day and so on and so forth. That's what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to get it. They're trying to say, oh, hey, you remember when we used to have a president that wasn't doing this, wasn't a quote unquote national embarrassment? That last president wants you to remember Gretchen Whitmer's name when you go to the voting booth.
Adam,
that's what that's about.
Adam, with all due respect, I feel like that's coming from somebody who liked Obama, is voting for Gretchen Whitmer anyway, and that was my point. I don't think that anyone who was on the fence was going to be swayed by Barack Obama, and certainly anyone that was voting for the statist pig Bill Schuette wasn't going to be swayed by that ad. I mean, you agree with the ad, but you voted for Obama twice, and you were going to vote for Gretchen Whitmer regardless of what went down.
Well, they don't need. Well, okay, they don't need my vote. You're right about that. But there's plenty of people out there that are still mixed on what they want to do when they go to the polling booth, and that's who that ad is targeting.
I don't think
it's not targeting people like me or other people on the left. It's targeting people who don't know what the hell they're going to do.
I don't know. I feel like there's a whole lot of Republicans or conservative-leaning people in the state of Michigan who were turned on by the idea, is bogus as it is, the idea of Gretchen Whitmer. And for those of you not living in the state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer's big thing was fix the damn roads. Michigan has the worst roads.
Most empty, besides Pennsylvania, believe it or not. Surveys of truckers say Pennsylvania is worse. Michigan is 49th.
I've driven through Pennsylvania many times, and I endorse that statement. But the thing is with Pennsylvania, their roads are so bad. Not to talk about roads all night, but the roads in Pennsylvania are so bad because they're constantly under construction. So it gives the illusion that they are trying. They are attempting to fix their roads, but they've been in this constant state of construction bombardment for a decade plus. So they're a disaster. I drove my Ford Mustang through Pennsylvania, and I wasn't sure I could fit through the ludicrous boundaries that they were providing. So how truckers do it, more power to you, brother, or sister. Sorry.
You'd be right in over 90% of the time.
But hey, however you roll, that's cool. But I know a whole bunch of conservative-leaning Republicans who are thinking like, hey, the roads
and you
suck
realize
here.
most of those.
I'm thinking about giving my vote to Gretchen Whitmer because I don't care what her politics say. I want, quote unquote, the damn roads fixed. So, an ad from Barack Obama to me hurts her. It hurts her because
and you got to realize
she nets zero votes.
It's not
but she might lose
about
some people.
The people who are decided partisans. It's about let's call it the 40% in the middle who will vote in either direction depending on the election or stay home. That's who it's about. And if you can kind of that 40%, middle 40%, generally speaking, in the state of Michigan went for Barack Obama twice. Mm-hmm. They in this last election went for Donald Trump.
Right.
So they're trying to rekindle the warm and fuzzies from the 08 and 2012 elections.
So-
that's the
so
point
it
of that.
also-
but
here-
let's get back to the idea of celebrity endorsements as a whole here.
Well, I
You
think
look
that
at
is
the
the
biggest-
idea, though, Dorf, because you have these people that I mean, we went to Obama twice, we went to Trump once, and we're getting over a Republican governor here in Michigan that wasn't well liked for a lot of reasons. So those Republicans are willing to give their vote to a Democrat until the king of the king of the Democrats comes out and endorses them. So to me, it's a net zero vote. If it was a thing where we're worried that votes weren't going to come or that voter turnout wasn't going to be big and that you needed to bring out the Democratic vote, then that'd be different. Granted, with that being said, Gretchen Whitmer's going to curb stomp Bill Schuette tonight, and that's not going to really matter, But that's all I'm trying to say. But I agree with you with your LeBron James point. Going back to that, because I feel like LeBron James.
I've got
has a lot of
another good
fans, but he's also
example.
got a lot of people that just want him to shut up.
I've got another good example of what kind of talking about. Taylor Swift.
Okay.
She, what was it, 5 or 6 weeks ago, came out and endorsed Phil Bredesen, the Democrat. The Tennessee Senate, their seat was open. I forget why, but Representative Marsha Blackburn was a former Tennessee state representative in the U.S. Congress, and Phil Bredesen, I forget what his previous role was, were running for that vacant seat, and it was a statistical dead heat at that point. Now, granted, there's only currently 3% of the reporting, precincts reporting right now in Tennessee. Bredesen's getting his ass kicked. Like, it's 66-33. Like, this isn't.
We're looking 2/3 here.
Yeah. And, that's, the 3% reporting in. I don't know my usual Tennessee electoral voting math. I don't know where it's coming from. It's a blowout. So far. But then again, if you look at the Texas Senate race, so that would be Cruz versus O'Rourke. Ted Cruz at one point was down like 66-33 as well, and now now I look at it, now it's currently 53-46 O'Rourke.
With half the precincts.
With just under half reporting in.
Which-
but at one point it was 20 points worse.
Still, that's in Texas, though.
What
but
parts
anyone
of
that knows
Texas? Look at
anything
the
about
map.
Texas knows that Houston and Austin, all the big cities, the Democratic strongholds,
it's still
those are going to come in first.
It's still Texas, and the guy's leading by what, 8 points?
But
Yeah, that's all I'm
But,
saying.
I mean,
That's all I'm saying.
Adam,
Is
here-
it's somewhat of an accomplishment.
here in Michigan, they do the opposite because Detroit's so slow to
Detroit's
send in
the
results.
slowest,
Hey,
yeah.
I'm not
So-
saying Beto O'Rourke is going to win. I'm just saying, hey, guys ahead by 5 points in Texas right now, and you have half the precincts reporting. It's Texas. I mean, come on. Just who cares? It's somewhat of an accomplishment.
Austin, Houston, and Dallas.
Okay,
are,
whatever,
Are
whatever.
strongholds
Go
for
ahead.
Democrats, and that's
Dallas not as much.
well. They're still big cities, and they're still going to be split.
San
at
Antonio
least-
is probably
at
what
least,
you're thinking of.
at least half and half. I mean, so hey,
Okay,
if Ted
okay,
Cruz
yeah,
loses today, I'll stand corrected. I'll eat Adam's hat.
I'm not even saying he's gonna lose. I think
I don't
Ted
think
Cruz
Adam
is probably
wants you
gonna
to eat his
win.
hat.
I think Ted Cruz is gonna win. I'm just saying the guy's ahead by 5 points right now with half the precincts reporting.
Hey,
That's it.
I will give you some mad props for saying this. If Ted Cruz wins, even by like 58-42,
It'll be closer than that.
And you think so?
I think you're looking at 52-48.
Okay. I mean, perhaps. I tend to think Ted Cruz is going to probably end up winning this thing with 60%. But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, guys. I'm just guessing.
All right, where were we
I'm just
again?
guessing.
Celebrity endorsements. Well, it's kind of relevant in that campaign because you had a bunch of people in Hollywood specifically endorsing O'Rourke, and yada yada. But just overall, I mean, I'm not trying to say to LeBron James here, shut up and dribble, but dude, you're trying to influence a Senate race in a place you don't live to a audience who you come across as extremely out of touch. What about LeBron James screams traditional Texas values? Dude, he's a basketball player from the Midwest who now plays in LA. I'm sorry,
and he's
it's
really
it's
damn
not
good
a
at
net
it,
help.
too,
Oh yeah, he's the GOAT.
Do you know,
But
do you know what? I don't know about that, but let's not talk about Jordan tonight. My problem with, I'm going to talk specifically about the ones you brought up with LeBron James and Taylor Swift. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't intelligent individuals. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to speak up and have a press conference and say exactly what they want to say about things. LeBron James seems to like to try to identify as he seems to try to identify with the black culture. Great, that's great. I don't have any problem with that. Taylor Swift seems to try to identify with women, young women.
Mm-hmm. Well, Taylor Swift for the longest time was silent on politics, and I think arguably on purpose. And my point is, she thought that she was making would have a huge positive influence on the election in this one direction. And now, early returns, whatever, it's probably going to end up a lot closer than it is now. But the candidate she wants is getting her butt kicked. Getting his butt kicked.
My problem with those two in particular is that they can attempt to identify with a social group or with a specific group of people as much as they want. But you're talking about two people who have been multimillionaires since they were 19 years old.
Taylor Swift's case earlier than that.
Okay. So, 17, 18.
And that's my point. These
people have been millionaires.
You're trying to influence. They have
nothing to do with us.
You're trying to influence largely middle class / working class people in flyover states, and you're going to say you have somebody who's the Hollywood, let's call it coastal elites or whatever, and professional athletes who make multiple, elite, like the minimum salary in the lowest paid pro sport. That being what I think is hockey.
Yeah, it's gotta be hockey.
As like $400,000 a year, which is, if you want to just do some rough math there, what? Between 6 and 8 times the average family take-home pay on a yearly basis.
I would describe it.
That's the minimum salary.
I would describe it as what we call serious bank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You are a member of the 1%. But
you certainly are.
What I'm trying to say is it doesn't help. But if we want to specifically talk newspapers here, I think if you want to actually look at what newspapers are supposed to be versus the reality of what they actually are, isn't newspapers supposed to be objective journalism? And if that's also the point, should they not be taking sides? I know that's the editorial staff who makes endorsements and not the journal, necessarily the reporting side. But at the same time,
are newspapers supposed to be that thing though? Because historically, they actually never have been.
You're right,
and I'm not saying that as a criticism.
But that's another one. That's one of those things that's the ultimate end goal because it's a institution of imperfect human beings, it'll never reach it. It'll never reach that perfection. It's got that original sin of being run by human beings.
Newspapers were created as offshoots of one party or another. I mean, even dating back to
forever.
Yeah, the 1770s. That's the case. And that doesn't mean that they've never reported anything factually or never have reported anything properly. But typically a newspaper leans one way or the other.
So you're saying it's okay that they endorse then?
I am, yeah. A newspaper, I actually kind of like to hear a newspaper endorsement. But does it help? I don't really think so.
I don't think it does. I mean,
don't think this dude's getting his ass kicked because Taylor Swift endorsed him either. I more am prone to say that
I think he's getting his ass kicked because he's not connecting with.
He's a milquetoast Democrat in the heart of the country.
He's not connecting with his constituents. That's why he's not doing it. And as far as LeBron James or Taylor Swift anywhere else, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to appeal to a voting bloc, a young voting bloc that maybe has a hard time getting out to vote. That's what they're doing here. I mean, a lot of the people, who are older, especially in Texas, their minds already made up.
Older people's minds are made up, period.
Yeah, especially in Texas.
The fight for voters, or let's call it people that will be lifetime party members, is won and lost in your 20s. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, it's won and lost before that.
I'd say your teens usually.
Yeah, depending on how much when you first start paying attention, that like first election or two after you start giving a fuck that's the fight for the heart and soul, where you'll have a voter until they die.
I tend to think that the correlation lies between either your parents sold you on one or the other, or your parents pissed you off and sent you in the other direction.
Let's go around the room. Which one are you?
Neither.
Really?
No.
Because you were the polar opposite of your dad.
Adam is definitely neither.
I'm neither. My dad wasn't politically.
He wasn't politically active at all until very recently.
Yeah, and my mom, I still don't know if she votes or not during the elections.
And you're somebody that pays a ton of attention.
Yeah,
to this stuff.
I pay attention to it. I don't.
Far more than normal, though. You pay a lot of attention.
I
to
don't.
Don't sell yourself short.
I don't. Yeah, it was neither.
Okay.
Neither.
We didn't talk politics growing up in my house. That was just not something that, I don't know. I don't know that there was a reason that we didn't or whatnot, but it turns out my mom is apolitical. She might vote for school board because somebody she knows running for it.
Sure.
But that is, but it turns out I'm almost a political carbon copy of my father, but there was no like molding there. There was nothing that.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah, there was okay. Nothing that was not an active, psychological operation. It just that's how it turned out.
Mm-hmm. My family is very political, very much so. When I was a little kid, my dad was Republican, my mom was a Democrat. Now I feel like my mom is.
So you got mix them up together, and you got Libertarian Josh.
My mom is probably further to the right than my dad is now.
Really?
And but that's all kind of come about recently. I came from when you branch out to the further depths of my extended family, it was like that. Okay, here is where, and this isn't me trying to brag. This is actually me trying to say that I've had more. What's the word I'm looking for? More propaganda thrown at me than your average Joe. Not everybody goes to college like I did and studies nothing but history and political science. Most people go to college to study something real. I went to college and studied goofy stuff like history, philosophy, and political science, which makes you qualified to do pretty much to be a podcaster is what that makes you qualified to do.
You and me both.
Yeah. Or enter academia.
Yeah. So I mean, but hey, I can't even get a job there. So that I'm not saying that makes me better or worse, but I think it goes without saying that I have been influenced more by that than most people, where most people are going to be influenced by their parents, and they're going to go to school and learn engineering or something righteous, something actually that you can go
hard science.
Something you can go get a job with.
That there is an absolute right and wrong answer to.
Yeah. So I mean, was I influenced by my parents? Definitely, certainly. But I said then I spent like 8 years in college learning about goofy stuff, and I mean, which one am I? Am I I guess I'm the rebel, because you go to college and typically you would come out a liberal, right? I mean, that's what the college wants. That's what the universities want from you. And I came out a, libertarian, government-hating pseudo-anarchist. So, I'm not sure, how I necessarily play into all that, but
such a rebel, you.
I am. Hey, maybe I'm just a rebel because I watch Star Wars too much. That I feel like that had just as much influence on it as anything I learned in college or at home at the dinner table.
Yeah. So Adam, just kind of on the same note, I know we kind of spun off here. Do you feel that you've always kind of been as left of center as you are now? Were you further left before, further right? Where you kind of always been in this sort of where you're at?
Yeah, I've actually been in this position probably, I mean, as long as I can remember. I really haven't changed too much since I really started paying attention in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't deviated too far either way for me. So.
Adam, can I give my brief analysis of the slight change I feel like you've gone through since I've known you?
No.
Okay.
He's gonna do it anyway.
Good. Because since I've known you, you've always been a kind of a left-wing guy who has been, pro-Democrat, left side. But to me, I've seen you transition from somebody who was a hardcore Democrat and left-winger to somebody who still has left-wing views, but is more anti-system. More, kind of a free-thinking guy who opposes the system.
Not necessarily a member of the tribe, but is willing to call out the own side for deviations from, proper, what would you call, left-wing philosophy.
This is what I would say. Yes.
Is that because I said I didn't like Nancy Pelosi a couple of weeks ago?
No, it's because you have self-identified.
She's actually on the agenda later, so save most of your thoughts about her.
No, I'm going to go with something much bolder and say that you have self-identified as an anarcho-communist on this very podcast. You have done this, and then we take we take political quizzes that you cheat on, but that you come out as a libertarian. So that's what this is based on.
If it makes you feel any better, I wasn't Rand Paul libertarian.
You never have been, and I don't think you ever will be.
Yeah.
I didn't actually identify. I didn't say you were a libertarian. I mean, we said that just recently, but
yeah.
I think what Adam's trying to say through his smirks right now is that Josh and Dorf just completely nailed his political ideology, and he doesn't want to admit it, which is just his stubbornness because we said nothing derogatory.
Well, and kind of, I'm gonna do the kind of get it back
His
towards
smile confirms it.
to me here. I think I have, as a political person,
Bring it back to me, okay,
yeah.
Donald Trump.
Look at me,
Let me check your Twitter feed now.
dude. I haven't tweeted anything that's not like angry sports rant in months.
You're not gonna have a problem with my Twitter feed because it's mostly just sharing your garbage.
No, mine's just angry sports takes. Currently, and I don't even think I posted one of those for 4 weeks. Anyway, my political kind of evolution here. I started out very much of on the economic axis, way to the right, and on like the social axis, I don't want to say I didn't care, but I didn't have strong feelings about it. Now from the economic axis, it was, if you can't take care of yourself, well then fuck you. This is your own fucking fault. Why should I have to do anything to help other people? Fuck everybody else. To now realizing the
Hashtag Ayn Rand.
yeah, but it wasn't from a Randian perspective because I at that point hadn't read anything from Rand. So to now it's I more acknowledge and more realize the need for, in order to run, I would argue a more effective society, for some of that attitude to be dialed down. In order to gain some stability and even-handedness in society, that some of the stuff that I would previously find untenable is something we'll at least have to entertain, not necessarily adopt, but entertain. We have to have that discussion. But at the same time, it's one of those that, I'm still quite a bit. I mean, if you want to reference back to our original for the second podcast, was it the first where we did the eight values test or whatever?
Second, yeah.
I still quite far right on that stuff, but at the social issues, it's just one of those, I don't fucking care. Just you do you.
For as long as I've known you though, Dorf, you've never been a guy.
It's about 6 years now, I think.
Yeah, you've never been a guy that really cared a whole lot about social issues.
Yeah, because a lot of that has to do with, it's not that I don't care about. It's just, it's one of those that
Even you know what?
My lifestyle and the things I care about very much fall into are not affected by the status quo.
I mean,
So-
and I don't want to get into the Cleveland Indians logo or anything like that, but I remember that was my first indication with you that you really didn't care about the social issues. I remember I asked you one time, I'm like, "Hey, what do you think about the Cleveland Indians logo?"
I was like,
And you're like,
whatever.
I really don't care. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't root for the Indians. Who cares?
Well, it's not even a rooting for the Indians thing. It's just it's not something that causes me stress, anxiety, or anger. I don't, or fear. I don't care. Does it affect my daily life?
Dorf would have been more prone to saying, God, I don't like Carlos Santana. I really don't.
Yeah, bastard draw too many walks.
No, that's not what I'm talking about, Dorf.
But you get my point. But the social issues, it's
I-
very
see,
much
I thought you were-
evolved.
I thought you were talking about Santana, like the
singer.
guitar player.
No.
No, Carlos Santana was a long time
Yeah, I've heard of him.
catcher and
Yeah,
first,
no,
but now
I
he's with
got,
the
I got
Phillies,
you.
but,
No, it's just not.
for
when
those
someone
who
says
don't
Carlos
know-
Santana, he's not the.
Yeah.
He's not the first. He's not the first Carlos Santana that pops into my head.
yeah, for those who
I'm
don't,
thinking Black Magic Woman.
yeah, for those who don't know, he's a professional baseball player. He's not with the Phillies, but it's just
The other Carlos Santana is far more talented.
I agree.
so. Is the other Carlos Santana showing my music ignorance here? Is that the Santana of Santana?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I knew a thing. I'm proud of myself. Yeah, for those who don't know, those XCast listeners who've never listened to anything I've been on,
Make One
I
Love
don't
On,
listen to music or generally watch movies, so
He's a weird person.
yes, I am.
Dorf, the way you describe your political ideology, I almost feel like you, in some ways, are a purist conservative. You're what the conservatives should be.
I don't even.
Like,
I-
you're
and
what the-
here's the thing: if
I
you
feel like
want
you
to
are
talk
actually what the conservatives pretend to be.
in modern American vernacular, you're right. But if you want to actually look at a political science definition of what a conservative is, I don't think I belong in that camp. But if you want to look at a pure political science definition, I think I belong in the classical liberal camp. That's still, believe it or not, right of center. It's just more towards the middle.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people have adopted the classically liberal, mantle. I'm one of those people in some ways, but the economics part doesn't really work though. I mean, for that, it kind of does, but I feel like you truly are you're what the conservatives pretend to be, but.
That's not what they end up being when
No,
they
that
actually
isn't
get
really
into power.
what,
You're
what
right.
they are. Because the conservatives then want to
Because
they want to pretend like they don't care about cultural ideas, but they do.
Most elected representatives ended up just being corporate cronies anyway. But, and I don't want to call it slaves to the donor class, but I don't have anything better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm at least what they pay lip service to.
Sure. No, I think you are, and actually, what a lot of conservatives want to be is they want to be somebody that wants a solid fiscally conservative base and want to at least feign that they would like a smaller government.
That's why everything is just so thrown off right now,
It
too.
is.
Because
especially
believe it or not,
it's-
if you look at a political science definition of a conservative is not a small government person. They want to use the state to enforce, back to traditional value.
And
A conservative is not inherently small government. That's where you get
Not at
it's just what are you trying to use the government for? It's the right side of the spectrum, the big government right wants to use it to enforce social values. And you could argue the big government left more wants to enforce economic values.
Sure.
Well, as long as it's social too, both of them have both economic and social components. But you would argue the authoritarian left is more of a economic focused group, and the authoritarian right is more of a social focused group.
Absolutely.
And
one thing
yeah.
to take that, base definition of a conservative, somebody that opposes government involvement in the economy and supports government involvement in morals. So, absolutely, they're going to have something to say about social issues. Now, the Republican Party historically. Now, to me, the Republican Party actually should brag more about what they have done historically. I feel like the Republican Party has a rich history of what they were created for and what they have accomplished. But with that being said, the Republican Party is not now, nor has it ever been, a small government party. Never. That's not ever why the Republicans were formed. So when libertarians like me try to grab a hold of the Republican Party and say, no, we're for small government, no, you actually never have been. You actually have never been for small government ever in your history. In fact, your party began as a way to destroy a foundation of the government and to use government to destroy what you viewed as a social and moral evil. It was slavery. That's cool, guys. Own it. Own it. Your party was formed as an abolitionist party against slavery. And you accomplished that goal. Congratulations, guys. Good work. But you didn't do it via small government. You didn't do it via liberty.
Why don't they?
You did it through Abraham Lincoln suspending habeas corpus and starting a war that freed the slaves. Own it, guys. Own it.
Why isn't it something they own? Though?
I don't know.
Is it?
I think it's
Is
because
it something? Is it something that happened too long ago?
I think it's because they feel that they have lost the black vote and lost the working class vote, and that they feel that they can't get it back, so why bother? Mm-hmm. You know, and I actually don't know why they don't, because guess what? You know, I mean, I know, you know, most black people and most working class people like to vote Democrat, and this isn't an endorsement of the Republicans, but the Democrats haven't done shit for you. They really haven't. I'm not saying the Republicans have. They haven't either. But, you know, you working class people or you African Americans out there who are like, no, we have to vote Democrat. Like, no, why? Why? They're not doing anything for you.
That's what it used to be. That the Democrats, and part of the reason they've kind of lost favor, they had their big run, arguably in the 90s and throughout like the middle of the last century, by being the party of the working class. And now it's turned into it's now
in like the 30s.
You're right, yeah. I mean, even into the pre-war, pre-Second World War. You're right. They were the party of the working class, and now you've got it. It's the Democrat Party. You could argue is the party of the coastal elite, and the Republican Party is the party of the flyover states.
Well, I will say this. That's something that Trump did very, very well with in this past election is appealing to the working class voter. And I know when my dad talks to me about politics, you know, he's trying to get me on some stuff. He's like, "Oh, what are the Democrats going to be running on, you know, in upcoming elections? Is it just going to be the anti-Trump party?" And I thought, well, yeah, that's going to be part of it.
Sure.
But that's part of any political party's campaign when they are going up against a president and a majority in Congress. That it would be the same thing if the Republicans were the minority and the Democrats are the majority.
You're absolutely right.
But I always thought that one of the things that Democrats should do is get back, and I hate this term, I hate the grassroots term.
It doesn't mean anything anymore.
But they should get back to what they were doing prior, is appealing to working class voters. Again, that's something that Trump did very, very well this last election. Because where was he going? He was going to the Rust Belt states. He was going to mining country in Weston, in West Virginia and Virginia, and that's and they ended up losing. Democrats ended up losing because they lost their message there. I think that's something that the Democrats need to do, is get back to that sort of thing, get back to that identity which they've had for a long time. they forgot about, and it ended up costing them an election that they should have won.
Adam, I agree with you, and something else I think that's really worth noting with all that is, yeah, they're gonna criticize the Democrats for being the anti-Trump party. Before that, while Barack Obama was president, remember they used to say that the Republicans were nothing more than the party of no. Mm-hmm. Remember that was a big thing at the time, is that, oh, they're just the party of no. They're just voting. They just oppose whatever. Truth is, whether it's here in the United States of America or in Europe or Australia or Canada or other parts of the world that have Democratic.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. By the way, Cruz is now down like 3,000 on O'Rourke, and they're now just getting to 50%. Adam, when we were talking, he was at like 46.
He's making his comeback.
Game's over.
Well, it's not over. He's still losing, but yeah. But something I like to point out is that, in Europe and Canada and Australia.
One thing.
Go ahead.
Ted Cruz's star has faded though a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're having a guy like
he's
Beto
lying,
O'Rourke,
Ted.
When you have Beto O'Rourke making it, when you're at 50% with over 50% reporting. Again,
yeah.
I'm not saying that he's going to lose, but this Ted Cruz
is the poster boy for the Republican that would, yes, we're pure and wholesome and win in our home states, but we get killed in our national elections. That's what he's the poster boy for.
Ted Cruz is a fucking sellout when it comes to Republicans. The guy who championed himself as a right-sided, traditional Republican type of guy who was, filibustering against Obamacare, all of a sudden now is all for these Trump, add to the deficit. That's what Ted Cruz is.
He's a John McCain syndrome.
Yeah, he's a political sellout.
He is the John McCain syndrome right now. And I know that John McCain and Ted Cruz felt differently about Donald Trump, but that's what he has. John McCain at one point was considered the rogue maverick who is going to rework it all. He lost an election, and the next thing you know, he was just your typical rhino, as the Republicans would like to call him. That's what's
Republican name only for the uninformed.
That is, they're listening to the X-Cast and Politics of the Empire. They're not uninformed.
Well, I usually run shows for a more broad audience.
I'm sorry, Josh.
I have to explain on a regular basis what wins above replacement means. So trust me. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. But all I was trying to say before is there's a reason why the other party is called or referred to as the opposition party. They actually are supposed to oppose that which is
party
what is in
who's
control.
currently running. Yep.
They really are. That actually is their job. And for them to, do you want to have a two-party system's bad enough as it is. A two-party system sucks in a lot of ways. But you want to have a two-party system where the second party, the opposition party, kowtows to the one in charge all the time? That's really bad. Now you got a one-party system.
What you got?
Was it Joe Donnelly?
Yeah, in Indiana.
He was officially unseated from his.
That's the ball game in Indiana.
That's the ball game in Indiana, which means that just about guarantees that
the Senate will not come back.
Democrats will not take the Senate.
Okay.
They needed that seat.
They needed to hold on.
Theoretically, it's still possible Democrat, but it's almost impossible.
Andy Barr and Ross Spano, also Republicans,
representatives
have both taken
defeated
their seats.
challengers. Yeah,
both retained their seats, which isn't unusual, but they have both retained their seats. In the United States of America, being an incumbent and losing your seat is becoming increasingly difficult to do.
Well, what's the average turnover rate in the House? Like how many in every 2 years? What's the average rate of turnover? I wonder that. I'm gonna Google that real quick.
Well, typically, one thing I can say historically is that the party that the president is a part of always loses seats during the midterm. So if Donald Trump loses, if the Republicans lose some seats here, this isn't some blue wave that overtook this because of Donald Trump. Even Ronald Reagan, even
Barack Obama
Richard-
saw it.
yeah,
I mean, Barack Obama saw it in 2000. Was it
Exactly.
2012?
Well, he went from one-party government in 2008 to losing the House in 2010 to losing both in 2012. Was it 12? Did he lose both? Did he lose the Senate in 12, or was that in 14?
I think it was in 14.
Okay, and yeah, to losing the Senate in 14 and running his last 2 years with a adversarial Congress. By the way, historical.
When the president's not there on the ballot for you,
yeah,
to gear up those voters, you're gonna lose votes. It happens. It happens every time. It happens to FDR. It happens to Ronald Reagan. It happened to Harry Truman. It happened to Dwight Eisenhower. I mean, it happens. It happens to these presidents. Always. You know, I mean, it's just, it will happen. So the Democrats will pick up seats. Will they pick up enough to matter?
Since the 1990s, between 83 and 93% of incumbents win in House elections, whereas historically before that it was usually between 64 and 67%.
Okay.
And the reason the turnover rate now is so low is gerrymandering. Do you want to do a brief topic on gerrymandering at all, since we're here?
We can. I mean, I know a lot of times on these shows we end up focusing a lot on Michigan politics because that's where we're at. We're here in Detroit,
We
and
haven't talked anything about Michigan politics.
but we have in the past. We talked about Gretchen Whitmer. We talked about some of this
Barack
stuff.
Obama endorsements of Gretchen.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
We have talked about it, but I'm just saying that a lot of times we fall back to that, and we'll continue that. I'm not making an apology to that. I'm just saying that we are here in Detroit, so we do often
That's what we get most saturated with.
Right, you know, and a lot of our viewers are from Detroit, but we recognize that not all of you are too. So we do try to branch out, but there was a gerrymandering. We'll try to discuss gerrymandering as an overall issue, but there was actually a gerrymandering proposal on Michigan's ballot today.
Proposal 2.
So go ahead, please continue, Dorf. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just laying some groundwork.
So the idea of gerrymandering, for those who don't know what gerrymandering means, is the idea of changing essentially congressional district borders and other voting borders to influence the outcome of the election, by essentially realizing that your opponent, whoever is drawing the lines, will take some, but we're going to draw the lines on the map so that all of they'll win their one race or two races or whatever in like 2 counties, and then we take the rest. You make sure every single Democrat, because the people of like political minds, believe it or not, generally live near each other. Draw the maps around the districts around, different hubs of the opposition party so that they can pick up less seats in general. So that's the general idea. And the proposal on the Michigan ballot was essentially trying to take the map drawing abilities away from the state Congress and then give it to a newly minted board.
Yeah, of 13 people.
Of 13 people.
Kind of silly, if you ask me.
Yeah, and the idea was, I think it was like 6 appointed from each party, and then the current governor got the 13th pick or whatever like that.
It's supposed to be, I believe, it's 13, so it's, is it 6 who identify as one party or the other, 6 that don't identify as a party, which is nonsense because, of course,
if you're involved in this, you have a political affiliation.
Exactly. So it's nonsensical, and then another one that is.
And so the whole point of gerrymandering is it's a. I think I would argue it's a political reality. It's something that, if you would able to take the human element out of everything, you would never have to worry about gerrymandering. You could just write an algorithm that would split it up perfectly fairly and representatively and whatnot. But since it's human beings that make these decisions, you are never really going to be able to take the human element out of it. Now, that doesn't mean you go full anarchy on this and say, fuck it, let's just, whoever's in power gets to draw the lines. But at the same time, the idea that you're going to be able to eliminate gerrymandering, specifically in Michigan with this proposal, is bullshit. It's just taking it out of the hands of elected leaders and putting it in the hands of political appointees, which are, you don't get to vote on those people.
The thing is, though, that traditionally and historically, there are two types of gerrymandering. And they never want to seem to discuss this, that there are two different ways in which political parties or political activists or people in power do it. And basically, the two methods for gerrymandering are cracking and packing. This is what they used to, teach in poli-sci classes back then. You're cracking and packing. Cracking being the idea that you would try to bust up a spot that leans towards one political party, and packing means that you would try to find your spot that has filled with like-minded individuals. Now, these two different types of gerrymandering, in essence, a lot of times work themselves out. They kind of just solve their own problem, in essence, by doing this. Now, you could, in theory, start at the most western point of a state and collect individuals until you had the exact amount of people.
Yeah, so like in Michigan, how many congressional districts are in Michigan again?
We have 80. I know we have 83 counties. We have
how many electoral votes?
17 electoral votes, so 15
so there's 17
districts.
No, there's 17 districts. Or 15 districts, yeah.
17 electoral
15
votes.
districts. There's the idea is you just take the state's population, divide it by 15 and just drop that grid on the map, but the only problem is population density isn't even, and that's not how it works.
And you could do it that way. What you said, you could actually do it that way. But in essence, what you will eventually have is you'll have two people living...
Speaking of Michigan politics right now, according to ClickOnDetroit.com, John James is winning over Debbie Stabenow. Like 17,000 time incumbent.
But as we mentioned previously, the Detroit numbers will come in later, and Debbie Stabenow will take that lead.
You're right. True story.
And hey, if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. I'm just going off the historical aspects of it. Now, you could, in essence, what we were saying when it comes to gerrymandering, divvy it up by person, by individual. But then what happens is you have half of, say, I'll take the city I live in. You'll have Westland, Michigan, and 2/3 of Westland will be voting for one congressman or congresswoman, and the other will not. Because there are more cities than there are districts. So you'll be splitting them up. So what gerrymandering attempts to do, or what the evil of gerrymandering, if you will, is it's lumping everybody in Westland together, which they kind of should be.
Yeah.
And everybody in Livonia or Lansing or Grand Rapids, they try to make a district out of that. Typically in Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, which if people know Michigan geography at all, it's the only state. We have a Lower Peninsula and an Upper Peninsula. The lower
divided landmass. Well, it's the only one besides
Florida has kind of one as well.
Hawaii too, and Alaska has islands. And,
but
no one lives in either of those places, so we don't care.
They don't talk about a Lower Peninsula and an Upper Peninsula.
Correct.
Other than Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, a big landmass, is one congressional district.
Because nobody lives there.
Yeah, because nobody lives there. Nobody lives there. Where Detroit, it's just a dot on the map, opposed to the...
And a bunch of people live there.
Opposed to the double thumb size spot of... Detroit is one, maybe two. We've lost electoral votes, I believe, in 3 consecutive censuses here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We're still the 8th largest state, but population-wise, but we've lost... population mass. Our population has grown in every case, but it's dispersed.
It's not growing to keep up with the rest of everybody.
As some of the other places. So, with that being said, in essence, you're taking this idea, the proposal that was on today's ballot in Michigan, for instance.
Hey, Adam, can you pull up the results on those proposals and see how we're doing?
Yep.
Specifically the gerrymandering one.
Yeah, proposal 2. In essence, you're taking the idea of gerrymandering and you're not eliminating it by any means necessary, by any means whatsoever. What you're doing is you're attempting to put gerrymandering into the hands of somebody else. And to me, it's just more bureaucracy.
So currently the margin is 59% yay, 40% nay for the jury.
It's gonna pass because
There's Josh's vote right there.
everybody's butthurt about
I
it.
didn't vote for it either.
I see Josh's vote right there.
I voted no on it. It's not necessarily the idea that I was not on board with. It's just like if you actually read the proposal, like I did,
Next to
it's fucking garbage.
I could tell that's Josh's vote because next to it says taxation is theft.
Oh, no, okay. Oh, that's definitely mine. That was not. That was me. Yeah, that was me. That was definitely me.
I thought I honestly, I'm sitting there coloring in bubbles. I'm like, I wonder if I wrote next to somebody, I just threw an arrow to their name and said "commie," what would happen to my ballot?
Did you guys notice on the Michigan ballots that they give you those Sharpies and then they bleed through to the other side?
I had a
Sharpie.
ballpoint pen.
Yeah, sort of.
So I had a Sharpie that was bleeding through to the other side.
By the way, Marsha Blackburn just took Tennessee. That was the Taylor Swift one we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Opposite of her endorsement.
I was noticing it bleed through. So if you can see my no vote, and then like the one person who voted for like libertarian candidate or U.S. taxpayers candidate on the other side, then you know it's definitely me.
How many? I mean, damn! They give you a Sharpie.
Yeah.
Was it like one of those?
I have a feeling my votes didn't.
Ours
count
was like a
because
felt tip pen historically, but this year I show up and it was a like a big cheap ballpoint big pen.
Mine
That's what
was
mine
was a actual Sharpie, like the
Sharpie
brand name
Sharpie.
Yeah. And I did notice it was bleeding through to the other side, so I was kind of wondering, is this vote count? And then I reminded myself that nobody's vote counts, so who cares?
Josh, we're not getting into that one tonight. So, all right, anything else?
Not yet,
Let's kind of move on to topic 2 here. Anything else we want to hit on before we kind of move on here?
No, if somebody else wants to say something about gerrymandering, it's fine. I'm not saying that gerrymandering is good.
I'm not saying it's good, but it's a reality. It's one of those. This may be a bad sports analogy, but it's like in running up the score. If you don't like it, stop me. And that's kind of like what you were getting at. Is gerrymandering usually takes care of itself. If you don't like it, win anyway.
Sure.
Be better enough to win anyway.
And when you're talking about gerrymandering in the terms of, because it's two very different things when you're talking gerrymandering. It's cracking and packing. So do you want to be overly cracked or overly packed?
Weed is about to be legal in recreational.
No,
weed.
it's not about to be legal. It's about to be regulated heavily by the government.
I did see your post
which is
about
very different than being legalized.
By the way,
Legalization implies that one has the right to do something, and when the government's decided that they are going to regulate the hell out of something,
doesn't make it
that does not
free.
make it legal.
So
what about all you pot smokers out there? Real quick, all you pot smokers out there who smoke pot every day, and there's
man.
There's a lot of you out there at school. I know a lot of you. A lot of you are great people. You are hard workers. You do a lot of great things.
Who's
I
here,
can
Coach?
think of
Stand on
a
here.
dozen people. No, I can think of a dozen people off the top of my head I know that smoke pot every day of their life. Has the government ever kept you from smoking pot? Ever once? All you people out there, has the government ever stopped you from smoking pot? Why on earth would you want the government to regulate this thing that you do every day anyway? What are you thinking about? This isn't legalization.
Another funny.
You're free. You're a free man. You're a free individual. You're a free woman. Do what you want. Put what you want in your body. Grow what you want in your basement. Why
or your backyard.
in the hell would you want the government to regulate that?
You can't grow pot in your backyard.
Yes, you can. Just not good stuff.
That's what I was supposed to.
My favorite meme about that is I want gay couples to protect their marijuana plants with their AR-15s. Yeah.
Yes, that is the libertarian mantra.
Yes. But so yes, weed. The funny story. So Canada recently nationwide legalized weed.
Regulated.
You're right. But they made it just like alcohol, that the government is the actually only party able to sell it to the population. Alberta ran out in like 5 hours, and they're not going to have any in stock for weeks.
See what happens when the government takes control of something?
They way underestimated demand.
I know. And hey, it's great. We're gonna have, beware. There are even friendlier Canadians coming to your border. I mean, it's out there for you. But listen, I don't care what. I believe that all drugs should be legal. I am for full legalization of all drugs because I believe that adults are adults. They actually have the right to do whatever they want with their body.
Sure.
But the thing is pot legal? No, pot is now legal. I'm doing air quotes here. It's legal in your house. It was anyway, you dopes. It was anyway, you morons. You could do that anyway. You were. You already were. Find me the person in the state of Michigan who was saying, oh, like, man, I really want to smoke pot, but I'm not going to do it.
Because the govs.
I'm not going to do it until the government says it's okay. Once the government says... And now there's one person, he's never smoked pot in his life, right? Mm-hmm. He's never touched a joint in his entire life. This past day, he's like, all right, America, tomorrow's the day. I'm going to smoke my first joint because it's legal. Give me a goddamn break. That person doesn't exist. You are still only allowed to smoke pot hiding in your living room. That's still the only place you're allowed to smoke pot. That's it. So, by the way, go get your card. Go acknowledge that you are allowed to smoke pot. You have now just thrown away your right to buy a firearm. You've thrown away your right to do a whole bunch of other things federally. Can't do it anywhere else. You're allowed to carry it. Okay, that's cool, I guess. They weren't supposed to be allowed to search you anyway, but who cares about that whole Constitution thing? But so you can carry it now. You can smoke it in your living room. If you're high on the street, you're still in trouble. If you're high driving your car, you're still in trouble. You didn't get any rights here. Nobody did. And the idea that, oh, well, it'll be just like alcohol. We're allowed to drink. Was it easier to drink right now, yesterday? Or was it easier to drink during Prohibition? Because truth be told,
probably during Prohibition.
Hard pill to swallow, everybody. If they didn't catch you in mid-swig, you weren't in trouble. Just like it was easier to smoke marijuana in the 1970s than it is now under legalization. Because in 1978, if they didn't catch you with the joint in your mouth, you weren't in trouble. So let that sink in, everybody. You didn't get a right to.
All right, I'm going to get this back on track here. Next topic we're going to discuss here is it impossible in today's day and age to keep foreign influence out of elections in the social media era? Why I say that is because information passes so readily and easily across borders from unknown sources that it turns out, believe it or not, like on Facebook, the biggest Black Lives Matter related fan page is run by a white dude in Australia. He did it as a scam to make money. He sold merch to people. Did it as a way to make money. Some of the biggest bigger Donald Trump fan pages
have been to, that's capitalism though.
Yeah.
Most things have been done originally to make
some
money.
of the more bigger Donald Trump fan pages were run by foreign individuals, questionably maybe state actors. Some of the stuff, if you browse Reddit on the Donald, is some of the highly rated posts there originate from sources outside the United States. So, with that in mind, without forcing a flag to I would argue, a unnecessarily and burdensome regulatory burden on a social media company to say where the funding source of an ad or where the person was who posted it. I don't know how that you can claim to be able to keep foreign influence out of elections. And the whole idea that this is new or something that hasn't been tried before, this has been something that state powers have been fucking around with each other, trying to influence each other's elections forever. We do it in every country across the planet as the government of the United States. We do it everywhere, whether it's actually toppling governments, funding oppositions, having a puppet client state, or arguably having a CIA wet team assassinate somebody